Hello guys, welcome back to Tarantula Tales of India. In this video, we are going to be changing the substrate inside this enclosure. The species inside this enclosure is Pterinochilus murinus, more commonly known as orange baboon tarantula. The reason why I am changing the substrate is because at least half of the substrate is now infected with fungus. If we do not take any action right now, we may have more severe fungal infection inside the substrate, which is not absolutely good for the tarantula inside. So yeah, let's get into the video without any further delays. When it comes to handling or catching this tarantula, people are afraid of this tarantula a lot because of its bad temperament. This species, it's an old world tarantula, meaning that it is very fast and its venom is medically significant. So people are afraid of handling this tarantula. But there is always a certain method in which we can handle this. But absolutely I do not recommend handling the tarantula. But right now I do have to get this tarantula outside its enclosure. As you can see, the dampness of the substrate is quite high for this species in particular. This species do well in dry substrate rather than in moist substrate. Now comes the most important and most sensitive part of this task, to take this tarantula out of its enclosure without any trouble. This species is known for its speedy nature, as I said earlier. So even if we make any jerky movement or any freaky movement, this can make this tarantula bolt. The tarantula can even run away if we are careless even for just a few seconds. So as you can see, I just made a gentle tap at the abdomen of the tarantula with the soft portion of the paintbrush and made it climb onto my hands. We can clearly see that the tarantula is not panicked even after we got it out of its enclosure. If in any case the tarantula ends up being in the ground just like that, you are strictly recommended not to pick the tarantula up with your bare hands. Instead, what you can do is to place a plastic container over the tarantula gently and slide a piece of paper under the container and make it upside down, thereby making the tarantula safely placed inside the container. And you can place a lid over this container until your job gets done. It is quite well placed and packed itself inside this container. It doesn't seem stressed out. So now we can close this lid and change the substrate of that enclosure. And one more thing is, you might have noticed by now that I keep on saying that this video is all about changing the substrate and not about changing the enclosure. This species is around 2.5 inches in diagonal leg span. So this is suitable time for even changing the substrate, changing the enclosure of the tarantula. I am planning to change the enclosure only if it turns out to be female, and it will remain in this enclosure if it turns out to be male. So we have to wait till its next molt to find the gender. In order to prevent the growth of fungus inside this substrate, we have to keep a few things in mind. One such thing is providing enough ventilation holes all over the enclosure. So for the upcoming few seconds of this video, I will be making ventilation holes with pins all over this enclosure. So I'm gonna fast forward this video for upcoming few seconds. After making enough holes and cleaning the enclosure, this is how it looks. It's almost pretty clear, and the substrate has completely been removed off. Now it's time to add a new substrate to the enclosure. To prevent the same mistake from happening again, I'm adding burnt dry substrate to this enclosure, as this species loves dry substrate and it will thrive in this enclosure. Now the enclosure has been set and it's time to introduce the specimen into this enclosure. Despite its bad temperament, this has been so famous because of its beautiful look. As you can see, it is very beautiful in color. Just like earlier, we are again going to be as gentle as possible with this species because this species cannot withstand any kind of abusal. As soon as it is released into the enclosure, you can see that it is hiding itself beneath this wooden piece. So that's how tarantulas, when it placed into the new substrate, new enclosure, behave. I'm just filling this water dish and I'm not spraying the substrate. Only the water dish will be filled as soon as it dries out. The substrate will not be made wet anymore. So that's it for the video, and I'll give you an update of this tarantula. Now we are at the end of the video, and kindly follow this Tarantula Tales of India to get more updates and care tips on tarantulas. Yeah, see you.